The year is 1906. The sky over Papua New Guinea churns with equatorial heat as 3 British explorers slice through thick jungle vines with rusted machetes, sweat soaking the collars of their khaki uniforms. Their boots sink into mud as dense and red as blood. They are deep in the lowlands of the Asmat and Korowai regions, a place the colonial maps simply mark as terra incognita, unknown land. Among them is Lieutenant William Harding, a Royal Geographical Society fellow with an appetite for fame. He has heard the rumors whispered in the colonial outposts of Port Moresby of a tribe hidden in the forest canopy that drinks the blood of its enemies, that speaks a language no outsider has ever recorded, and that carves their homes high into the trees to avoid the vengeful spirits that stalk the ground below. Local guides refuse to go beyond the last river. Too far, they mutter. The smoke eaters live there. The British take this as a sign they're on the right path. Harding, eager to deliver a report that will dazzle the London Gazette, Wani documents every strange call echoing through the trees, every totem of bone strung from branches like a warning. They cross a rotting rope bridge, its cords fraying like old muscle. Below, black water churns, and crocodile eyes glint in the shadows. On the 12th day, they discover a clearing. A strange silence hovers, too absolute. Then they see it, a house suspended 40 feet in the air, built into the branches of an ancient banyan tree. It is unlike anything they've ever seen. Long stilts carved from ironwood, a ladder made of vine and bone, and atop it, a thatched dwelling decorated with skulls, human skulls, scorched and polished. Harding sketches furiously. His colleague, a missionary named Elias Cooper, begins to pray. That night, near the edge of the clearing, Harding hears a rustle. Then a low, wet click, like a tongue smacking inside a skull. He turns. Nothing. But when morning comes, one of their porters is gone. No sign of struggle, just a smear of ash near the fire and a necklace of teeth draped over a tree root. Harding doesn't write that in his journal. It will be nearly 70 years before Western cameras return to this place. But in the early 20th century, the few who survive bring back tales too disturbing to print in full. In private letters, they speak of sky spirits, of witch men who feed on sorrow, and of villages where no elders are ever seen, only men in their prime, and the bones of those too old to defend themselves. Some scholars believe the tribe in question is the Korowai, though records are murky, and the names used by locals for rival clans often overlap. One thing is certain. For the explorers of the Edwardian era, the jungle is no longer just a mystery. It is a living thing that watches them back. A fringe note in Harding's final expedition log, written in hurried script, reads simply, "We are being hunted now." The air inside the Korowai treehouse is thick with smoke and the smell of roasted sago. Flickering flames from a central fire throw shifting shadows against the wooden walls where animal bones hang beside polished human skulls. A boy no older than 10 stares into the embers. Beside him, an elder whispers an incantation in a language so old and isolated, no outsider has ever fully translated it. It is the 1970s now. A new wave of explorers, anthropologists, and missionaries have returned to this stretch of Papua, lured by rumors that have only grown stranger with time. This time, the cameras are rolling. National Geographic and European broadcasters compete to film the so-called last cannibal tribes. They carry not just rifles and rations, but boom mics and wide lenses. What they find is a society that has existed in almost total isolation, linguistically, geographically, spiritually. The Korowai build their homes 30 meters above the forest floor to escape flooding, insects, and what they call the kahua witches in human form who possess the body and soul, feasting from within. When a sickness spreads or a sudden death occurs, it is not seen as disease. It is evidence that a kakua walks among them. And when one is found, the punishment is swift and final. The accused is bound. Ritual chants are sung. A sharpened bamboo spear is thrust into the heart. The body is then butchered, cooked, and eaten by the entire clan. It is not hunger that drives this act. It is justice. To the Korowai, this is not savagery. It is a spiritual obligation, a way to rid the community of dark magic. To them, the kakua is not truly human. Its flesh is no different than a wild pig, corrupted by a jungle spirit. Western visitors, unprepared for the logic of this worldview, often recoil. Yet in the firelight, something more complex emerges. These are not monsters. The tribe sings lullabies to their children. They weep when elders die naturally. They plant gardens, tell origin stories, and carry their dead with reverence. Unless, of course, the dead were witches. One anthropologist, Dr. Rupert Wallace, spends 6 months among a Korowai clan near the Islandan River. He writes in his notes, "They are as terrified of the kakua as we are of cancer. It lives unseen, festering inside their lives. The eating of its host is not done in joy, but in grim necessity." A lesser-known but haunting detail emerges during Wallace's stay. In one village, he hears of a woman accused of harboring a kakua. In her dreams, not her body. She is not killed, but exiled. Alone in the forest, she disappears within days. Some say they found her sleeping under a strangler fig tree, whispering in a voice not her own. Others say she turned into a bird. That woman's name, her face, her fate, all are lost to history. Wallace never records them. Her story survives only in the trembling voice of a child, retelling it by firelight, eyes wide with fear. Meanwhile, a growing debate stirs beyond the jungle. Journalists and academics argue over whether these acts of cannibalism are truly ongoing or performed only when cameras arrive. Are the Korowai genuinely maintaining ancestral rites or reenacting them to satisfy the morbid curiosity of outsiders? The mystery deepens when 2 separate crews, arriving just months apart, report contradictory findings. One team films what they claim is a real ritual execution, blurred, brutal, unforgettable. The other reports no such activity and suggests the tales are exaggerated. Truth, in the canopy, is as slippery as the vines that bind it. And in the firelight, the Korowai continue to chant, to build, to believe. Whether their rites are ancient truths or modern performances remains a question tangled in smoke, fear, and silence. The jungle does not yield easily to foreign gods. In the early 1980s, the first Christian missions begin penetrating the deeper territories of Papua's interior, carried by small planes, riverboats, and the tireless conviction of evangelists. They come bearing crosses and crucifixes, Bibles translated into Tok Pisin, and portable generators to power shortwave radios playing gospel hymns. When they reach the Korowai, they find a people who do not fear hell, only the kakua. Missionaries from Australia and the Netherlands are among the earliest to establish temporary mission posts near Korowai settlements. They are met with curiosity, not hostility. Children watch from behind tree trunks, fascinated by the missionaries' pale skin and metallic tools. Elders listen to their parables, nodding politely. But the chasm between belief systems is profound. The missionaries speak of sin and salvation. The Korowai speak of shadows that live in the teeth, of spirits that curl around the intestines and whisper one's name before death. A tragic incident occurs in 1983. A local boy, recently baptized by a Lutheran missionary named Thomas Reint, begins to suffer convulsions. The villagers believe a kakua has taken hold of him, perhaps one that entered during the foreign ritual in the river. The boy is hidden in the jungle, and when the missionaries return to ask after him, the villagers say he walked into the trees and vanished. No one ever finds a body. Whether the boy died from an untreated seizure or something older, darker, no one agrees. But the event shakes Reint, who writes in a private letter, "I came here to save souls, but I do not know if they believe they have one." The clash is not just spiritual, but physical. Colonial authorities, seeking to pacify the region, begin cracking down on reported acts of cannibalism. Missionaries are instructed to guide the savages toward civilization, but their very presence alters the delicate balance of Korowai life. Clothing is introduced. Tree houses are abandoned for ground dwellings. Children learn Tok Pisin and fragments of English. And yet, the stories persist. In 1994, an Australian film crew documents a village ritual involving a kakua, accused of killing 2 men in their sleep. The footage is incomplete, the camera fails, just as the ritual begins. When it returns, the accused is gone. The villagers claim he fled. Others aren't so sure. a lesser-known incident follows. A Korowai man, once baptized, later renounces Christianity and returns to his clan. He claims that while the missionaries offered bread and forgiveness, they could not cure the sickness that took his brother. His clan performs a cleansing. In the ceremony, a pig is sacrificed, but some whisper the pig had two hearts, and that one belonged to someone else. This is not a metaphor in their world. It is a truth felt in bone. In the margins of anthropological journals, there are hints of stranger phenomena, reports of shamanic trances that last days, children who speak in voices not their own, carvings on bark that resemble maps, but to places no outsider has ever found. Scholars debate whether these are cultural metaphors, misinterpretations, or something older. Theories range from mass suggestion to deep animist ritual. One fringe theory, published briefly before being discredited, suggests the Korowai's rituals may be a form of inherited memory, ancient trauma, encoded through centuries of isolation and scarcity. By the end of the 1990s, the jungle is no longer untouched. Roads begin creeping inward. Aid workers, schools, and state authorities arrive. Some Korowai men wear t-shirts given to them by tourists. Women carry plastic buckets alongside woven baskets. And yet behind the thin screen of modernity, the whispers remain. Some missionaries now believe they've succeeded. Others admit quietly that the Kakwa never really left. As night falls over the canopy, fires still crackle beneath the stilted homes. Shadows move among the beams. And the children still ask, who will be next? By the early 2000s, the world has decided what the Korowai are. Tourists trek upriver with local guides, clutching camera phones and GoPros, eager to witness the last cannibals. Travel documentaries promote authentic tribal encounters. Tour companies promise treehouse stays and traditional sago feasts, sanitized, of course. The Korowai, many now fluent in Market Tok Pisin, participate in these performances. They don feathers, paint their faces, and light ceremonial fires when visitors approach. Some even allow mock rituals to be filmed, but behind their practiced smiles lies an unspoken bargain. Give the outsiders the story they crave, and they will leave you in peace. And yet, among the elders, there is unease. Macab, a clan leader nearing 60, remembers the time before the boats and the missionaries, before the khaki uniforms and metal tents. He remembers when the Kakwa were real, or at least believed to be, and when the jungle kept its secrets. He speaks to no cameras. When asked by a reporter if cannibalism still exists, he only replies, "Sometimes the forest eats what must be eaten." Academic opinion splits in two. One camp insists the practice of ritual cannibalism is now extinct, a relic, performed only under duress or reenacted for tourists. The other camp argues that such pronouncements are premature, that what was once sacred has simply been driven underground behind a mask of adaptation. A haunting case in 2006 stirs the debate once more. A young man from a mission-educated Korowai family falls ill and dies suddenly. No doctor had been called, no medicine administered. When questioned, the family offers little. The body is buried before sunrise. A few days later, his uncle disappears. Some believe he was executed. Others whisper he confessed to witchcraft. No charges are ever filed. No missionaries ask questions. The camera crews have moved on. Their footage is edited with dramatic narration and tribal music overlays. In one segment, a man points to a skull and says in broken English, "This bad man. He eats soul. Now we eat him." Whether the statement is real, rehearsed, or mistranslated is never clarified. Meanwhile, deeper in the forest, far from tourists, old tree houses still sway in the wind. Some are abandoned, others remain active, hidden behind natural barriers and shifting river paths. Reports occasionally surface from aid workers or rogue travelers. Strange smoke seen from the treetops. Distant chants that rise at dusk. Totems hanging high above the ground, carved with teeth and red ochre. A rare field note from 2014, written anonymously by an anthropologist who spent 4 weeks off-grid, suggests something unexpected. She claims to have seen a village mourning the death of a child. There was no wailing, only silent fasting. At night, they lit a fire, and left a bowl of cooked flesh at the edge of the forest. When she asked what it meant, a woman told her, "For the spirits to eat so they don't come take another." No bones remained the next morning. Whether this was literal or metaphorical, no one knows. In time, the Korowai language begins to erode. Younger generations move to state-run schools or to the coast. Their old words for shadow, spirit, and vengeance are replaced by words for road, phone, and church. A few still remember the songs. Fewer remember their meaning. The jungle, once a world alive with breath and dread, grows quiet. But silence is not absence. In the deepest stretches, where no drone flies and no tourist treads, stories still pass between lips around firelight, of the kakhua, of the old justice, of the time before faces watched from behind glass lenses. Perhaps they are only stories now, or perhaps in some high treehouse above the mist, the old ways wait not forgotten, merely hiding. History remembers civilizations in monuments, scrolls, and ruins, but some cultures leave no cathedrals, no empires, only whispers among the leaves, and ashes in the fire. The Korowai did not ask to be remembered. They did not choose to become a spectacle or a cautionary tale. What we call horror, they once called harmony. What we label taboo, they saw as balance, a reckoning against unseen forces they feared more than death itself. Today, their story is fragmented, caught between belief and survival, between the pull of the modern world and the weight of ancestral blood. And so we are left not with answers, but with a question hanging in the humid air. When we speak of what is forgotten, who gets to forget?